In Lakewood, Colorado in 2019, a baseball game for 7-year-olds, that's right, 7-year-olds, turned chaotic when parents and coaches, upset over a call by a 13-year-old umpire, stormed the field and started a full-on brawl. According to reports, the disagreement over the umpire's call escalated quickly, with adults throwing punches while the young players watched in shock. The Lakewood Police Department described the scene as disgusting, noting that the behavior was a terrible example for the kids. This incident, widely covered by outlets like CNN and ABC, highlights how pressure from parents can spiral out of control, turning a fun game into a spectacle of anxiety. And it's exactly the kind of crazy story that illustrates today's podcast. You know, we all want our kids to thrive, to chase their dreams and come out on top. It's only natural, and it's a good thing. As parents, we see their potential and want to inspire and push them toward greatness, because we know there's something in all of us that wants to quit when things get tough, and we don't want to raise quitters. As dads, we also know that hardship builds character. That's what's taken place in our lives. It's been said a man becomes successful through adversity, then robs his children of the very adversity that made him successful. So we don't want to do that. We know that life can be tough, and part of the job is to prep kids with resilience, and therefore we don't want to be too soft. So pushing our kids to reach their potential is an important role for every father. But for some, that push begins to look more like a shove. And us helping them in reaching their potential can take forms of perfectionism, performance to gain our approval, or crushing pressure that defeats kids rather than inspires them. You know, sadly these days, it feels like everything kids do is high-stakes competition. On the sports field, it's a battle for the starting lineup or a college scout's attention. In the classroom, it's a race for straight A's or that spot at the university you've always wanted your child to attend. Even in the arts, I'm thinking about piano recitals, dance competitions, or theater auditions. Kids are clawing for the spotlight. To stand out, they've got to go all in, logging extra practices, late night study sessions, or countless hours perfecting their skill. And as parents, it's easy to get swept up in that frenzy, thinking that pushing harder, always harder, is the key to unlocking their success. But here's the thing. Knowing when to push and when to ease up is like walking a tightrope. Back in my day, the answer was straightforward. Push, push, push. Hard work was the golden ticket to success, and perseverance was king. No one said it would be easy, my parents said. And parents then leaned into that, believing that it would forge resilient, high-achieving kids. The result, though, was a generation of overachievers, many of whom had no fulfillment. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing a different story. Childhood for this generation has changed. Kids are now grappling with anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues at rates that should make us concerned. Never before have we seen such high anxiety in our children. By the way, if you want to read a really good book about the generational and cultural challenges kids are facing, read the book, The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. It's by Jonathan Haidt. It's in my top 10 parenting book list that I can send you. His book is an investigation into the collapse of youth mental health in the era of smartphones, social media, and big tech, and a plan for healthier, freer childhood. It gives insights into what your kids are facing. So a 2021 study from the American Academy of Pediatrics found that 25% of kids aged 10 to 19 reported symptoms of anxiety or depression. That's up significantly from a decade ago. In academics, a 2023 report from the Journal of Adolescent Health showed that 60% of high school students felt overwhelming pressure to excel, with many pointing to parental expectations as a top stressor. Some kids shrink from challenges altogether when they face that kind of pressure, burying themselves in screens, social media, or endless distractions. So, what's going on in our culture? Are we not pushing them enough, or are we pushing too hard? It's a question that each parent has to answer. Before I proceed, if you have a child with a learning disability, a neurodevelopmental disorder, or any other similar clinical diagnoses, you should listen carefully to this podcast, but also know you have special challenges that may or may not intersect with what I'm advocating. It's very important that you see a therapist and that you carefully apply what I'm saying today. I know most of you dads are pouring your hearts into being the best parents that you can be, and I've got nothing but respect for that. This isn't about piling on guilt or pointing fingers. Far from it. I really want to lift you up and encourage you. But here's the thing. So much of what we face as parents runs on autopilot, caught up in systems that push their own agendas. Whether it's the hyper-competitive world of youth sports, the crushing pressure of academic rankings, or even the social media highlight reel of perfect parenting, these influences can steer all of us off course. The problem might not be your heart or your desire and love for your kid, but even the purest intentions can miss the mark if we're not careful. Sometimes our drive to see our kids succeed is really less about their potential and more about our own need to feel validated or to prove we're doing it right. It's easy to get swept up in that, pushing too hard when we think we're just cheering them on. But let's be real. Loving our kids means checking ourselves to make sure our actions match their needs, not just our good intentions. I've been caught up in this myself. My two sons grinded through high school varsity basketball and AAU circuits, competing in gyms across the city. My daughter cheered year-round, school squads, competitive teams, you name it. Unfortunately, I've had my fair share of pushy parent moments when I thought I was helping out, but in actuality, looking back, I know I pushed too hard. I've also seen it in other parents, moms and dads desperate for their kid to achieve. I've personally seen dads publicly rip into their kids the second they step off the court, sometimes even yelling from the sidelines mid-game. Man, I've come close to that myself, and I regret it. A 2019 study from the National Alliance for Youth Sports showed that 70% of kids drop out of organized sports by age 13. Often because of excessive pressure as the reason. And as I mentioned, it's not just sports, it's academics, music, debate club, you name it. Too many talented kids with real potential, quit the moment they're old enough to say, I'm done with this. And let's be honest. Remember, this podcast is for thinking dads. Sometimes this pressure isn't about our kids' potential at all. It's really about us. As parents, we can fall into the trap of living vicariously through our kids, chasing achievements that make us feel whole. Maybe we've had some dream about our kids' achievement that's not really about their fulfillment or growth, so we push our kids to do it, possibly even if we look closely for us. Maybe we're craving the bragging rights at the office, the admiring nods from other parents, or the social media likes when we post about our kids' latest achievement. You know that's true. It's not always about their dreams. It's about our need to prove something to ourselves or to the world. Again, I'm embarrassed to say I fell into this trap. I shared a story on a previous podcast about an experience with my oldest son, Ryan, that was not my best moment as a dad. I was frustrated, and after a basketball game, I harshly told him to be tougher and more confident. But his face after my words showed pure defeat. I had crushed him. And reflecting on it, I realized that shoving moment was more about me. Why? Because I viewed his mistake as some reflection on my parenting. Crazy, right? And sick in some ways. But if I'm honest, that was it. And I want to be honest with you so you can be honest with yourself. My push wasn't really about his potential. Now, let me be clear though. My pushing and encouraging Ryan over the years did help shape him into a resilient young man. I challenged him, and we see those traits shining in his adult life. I sometimes wonder where he would be without me serving him in this way and loving him in this way. I mean, he needed me as his dad in this sense. Your kids likely need you too in that way. But in that moment, I went too far. And realizing that caused me to really shift my approach. I almost remember the exact moment. I realized that in the end, lifting a child up with support takes them so much further than pressure ever could. And even good intentions, pushed to extremes, can harm. So I believe we've got to rethink what resilience really means and why kids stick with tough challenges in the first place. It's easy to assume a struggling kid just needs more motivation, a kick in the pants to get moving. But sometimes it's not about motivation at all. Sometimes it's about fear, pressure, or even resentment. And we just kind of skip over those things. Sports, academics, music, any competitive activity should build kids up physically, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. But sometimes, please hear me on this, an activity stops being good for them. Maybe the endless study sessions for that AP class are tanking their mental health, or the pressure to be the best on their soccer team is draining their joy. Is that really what you want to see? Maybe the piano lessons they used to love now feel like a chore because they're terrified of disappointing their teacher or you. I'm not saying we should let kids quit at the first sign of struggle. In our family, we had a rule. If you start something, you finish the season or the school year in it. No bailing mid-year, but when that year was up, my kids got to decide whether to keep on going. I asked them every year in the summer, do you still want to do this? It's okay if you don't. And let me tell you, if you're a parent who sees your child's potential and say, man, they could be great at this or that, it's tough to let go of that control and to ask that question of them. But when I did it, when I let go of that control for them to continue, they were happier and they were more motivated about what they were doing, and ironically, often achieved more than when I was hovering over them. Psychologists draw a clear line between perseverance and compulsion. There is a difference. Perseverance comes from within, whether it's learning to nail a three-pointer, solving a tricky math problem, or mastering a piano piece. Even when they're exhausted or frustrated, they keep going because they want to. Compulsion, on the other hand, is when they feel like they have to, driven by external pressures like a parent's expectation, a coach's demands, or the fear of falling behind in class. Compulsion can make kids associate an activity with stress, shame, or even inadequacy. Sometimes even negatively with us, the parents pushing them. Over time, that pressure can turn a kid who loved basketball, debate, or science fairs into one who dreads them. And maybe even more sadly, a kid who dreads us. When kids feel like they're in the driver's seat, they're more likely to persevere because it's their choice, not ours. Competition isn't the enemy. I love how sports taught my kids discipline, teamwork, and confidence, how it brought them belonging in friends. Academics did the same. But the question isn't whether competition is good, it's whether we're cheering for their passion or for our vision of their success. Being honest about our motivations is just as critical as understanding what drives our kids. If we're pushing them to boost our ego, our reputation, we're not helping them, we're burdening them. So the big question, how do we find that balance? Well, the word balance is the key. The answer is attention to manage in the long term, not a problem to solve once and for all. Again, this podcast is for thinking dads. So the answer is a both and, not an either or. It's about both challenging our kids and celebrating them, holding them accountable and showing affirmation. So let me ask you, where are you in that balance? Which way are you tilting? Maybe it's time for an adjustment. This is about the art of recognizing when they're hitting the wall, when they're hitting their limit before they crash into burnout. For our family, that meant setting clear boundaries, like not quitting mid-season or mid-semester, but giving them the freedom to choose at the end of the year. It also meant asking tough questions. Is this activity still lighting them up? Are they pushing through because they want to or because they feel they have no choice? Are we encouraging them when they get down, when they make a mistake, strike out, blow that test, or miss that jumper? Or are we crushing them after those experiences? Now, all of us know sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. So again, we're talking about balance. But this means that we need to reframe how we understand effort and failure. If we make every activity about the end game, a scholarship, a 4.0 GPA, a first place trophy, it turns every setback into a crisis. Instead, we can teach kids that effort itself is the win. I remember Blake Griffin, the all-star NBA player who played for the Clippers for many years. He said, "You must fall in love with the process of being a great athlete." That's it. If they fall in love with the process, then the product, big or small, will take care of itself. Okay, as we finish up, here's a checklist, some diagnostic questions to keep ourselves grounded, to make sure we're nurturing our kids' potential and not our own needs. Number one, is my pushing about their passion or my vision of their success, my need to feel proud or look good to others? Next, is my kid genuinely enjoying this activity most days, whether it's sports, school, or something else? Next, am I truly listening to my child, studying their cues, and staying tuned in to notice when the pressure's too much? Or am I just coasting on autopilot, caught up in the passion and the grind of expectations? Next question, have I even considered if the pressure is good for them long term? Is it a healthy challenge or something that's hurting their confidence and well-being? And then next, could I let go of their involvement in this activity without feeling like I've failed as a parent? Let me say that again. Could I let go of their involvement in this activity without feeling like I failed as a parent? If not, why not? What's going on there? So maybe you're holding too tight to this, valuing the activity and the achievement of your child more than your child themselves. Have I asked them, do you really want to keep doing this? Better yet, have I said to them, you don't have to do this to make me proud. I'm already extremely proud of you. So mastering this balance is like a parenting superpower. It's graduate level fatherhood. It's not about raising kids who dominate every field or collect every accolade. It's about raising kids who know how to chase what matters to them, driven by passion, not pressure. It's about teaching them that true success isn't just about trophies, grades, or applause. It's about finding meaning and joy in the journey. And when we get that right, we're not just setting them up to achieve, we're giving them the tools to live a life full of purpose, resilience, and happiness. And honestly, isn't that what we all want for our kids most? It's about saying to them, hey, you are more than your grades. The game doesn't define you. I'm okay with you as you are. I see how hard you tried. I'm proud of you. I love watching you do your thing out there. If you can push without shoving and convey these messages to them, you'll have a child who is competent, confident, and most importantly, connected to you. And that's what we all want most. Hey, don't forget, please subscribe to our podcast.